Hey folks, welcome to the Think and Grow Society webinar. I'm going to thank you for being patient tonight. We were experiencing some very severe technical difficulties, but just to show you that you can't sweat the small stuff, we're here and broadcasting live now. So thank you for joining us on the webinar tonight. I have to say that it was a little bit of a challenge. I'm checking the chat room just to make sure everyone can hear me. We were having some audio difficulties. I wanted you to know that Google recently changed their login interface to require us to download plugins, and I swear I think they're making it difficult for anyone except for someone in a Chrome browser to be able to connect to Google, because now all of a sudden we have difficulty getting audio on our main computer. So I'm on my laptop right now, and I don't have the headset microphone on, so I'm hoping that the audio is sufficient for you for our purposes. So if someone could indicate in the chat room that A, you can hear, and that the audio is good, we'll get started in just a second here. But while I'm waiting for that, I know that we have a little bit of a delay here, so it's going to take a minute or two before I actually see that happen. But while we're waiting, let me also tell you that I really appreciate you being patient last week when I left town for the funeral. It was rather abrupt and unexpected, so I appreciate the fact that people were patient about that, and that you understood the circumstances and everything. So I hate to have anything that interrupts or interferes with our weekly gathering. This has become a regular routine for us, and I enjoy it. So, okay, so the sound is good, apparently, according to everybody. That's wonderful. And so I want to thank you again for joining us. I know Friday night is not the greatest night because of so many other things you could be doing, but it is good that the people who are taking their lives seriously are able to be here and join us on a Saturday night. We're in very informal surroundings here right now, and as I said, I try to keep this very low-key, very informal. So we're just here to have a conversation, just here to chat about some concepts and principles that might make a difference in what you're looking to accomplish in your life. And also, as you become better equipped to work with this information, it might make a difference in terms of what you're able to do to help others. So give me just a minute just to flip around here. As I said, we're working in a little bit different environment tonight than we normally do, so I'm trying to play around with a couple of new ideas and everything. But tonight's topic, for the benefit of those who are here tonight, is cooperation. And I want you to know that this is probably, I don't know that there's any lesson that's more important than another, but I will say this. This is a lesson that is very much underestimated in terms of the value that it adds to your ability to accomplish anything that you're seeking to accomplish. What a lot of us don't, thank you, Jack, for that comment. A lot of us don't realize is that nobody has ever done anything worth doing that didn't require the cooperation of others. Now, we may have been someone that came up with an idea. We may have been someone that had the organizational skills to make it happen. But everything that we do that is worth doing involves the effort of others. And it's simply a matter of who it is you're going to invite to cooperate with you to accomplish whatever it is you're seeking to accomplish. So first and foremost, I want you to embrace the concept that whatever you're setting as your definite chief aim, there are going to be others involved in some fashion or another in helping you to make that happen, whatever that is for you. Now, some of those people might be colleagues, some of them might be employees, some of them might be consultants. It doesn't matter. You're inviting someone to cooperate with you and to pool their talent and energy and resources and put that behind whatever it is you're seeking to do to make it happen. So I want you to understand, first and foremost, that if you're one of the people that has the attitude that, if it's worth doing yourself kind of thing, or, it's hard to get good help, well, that's going to be an attitude that will stifle your ability to accomplish anything of significance. You can certainly get little things done, but you'll never achieve greatness. And by greatness, what I mean is finding a way to be of service to the maximum number of people possible. If you've got a skill and talent, and we all do, if you're not finding a way to share that skill and talent with as many people as humanly possible, then you are literally failing to live up to your full potential. And so living up to your full potential usually involves the effort of others. And so please take this seriously, because your opportunity is enhanced exponentially when you choose to focus on who else you can get to assist you to make things happen. Now, in this lesson on cooperation, this is basically going right back to the beginning of our lessons, where Dr. Hill started everything off with the mastermind principle. That was the very first lesson in this whole exercise, was the mastermind principle, which was the concept of people coming together in perfect harmony for the purpose of achieving or to achieve a definite purpose, for the purpose of pursuing and achieving a definite chief aim. And so if you understand that that was the lesson we started with, and now we're starting to see a little bit of a repeat in this information, I think that that symbolizes how important this lesson is. Cooperation has a section, a lesson unto itself. So I want you to understand that that's not an accident. That's something that I think Dr. Hill did by design to emphasize for us how important this aspect of success is. And that's something I think that you should take away from this lesson. It's a very important process. Now, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what cooperation means. In this particular lesson, Dr. Hill talked about two different types of cooperation. He first talked about cooperation between your conscious and subconscious mind. I have to confess, I had a little difficulty thinking in terms of my conscious and subconscious mind being in cooperation with each other. I understood later on, after I read that lesson over and over again, that what he probably is referring to there is making them work together. In other words, having your conscious mind, something you can do and manipulate consciously, trigger the availability of your subconscious. And so we're going to talk in a minute about how that gets accomplished. And I'm going to give you a real-life example of how I've done it and how it worked for me, because, like I said, I've been at this long enough now that I actually do have some anecdotal evidence of the fact that it works. And then the second type of cooperation that he referenced was the cooperation we were talking about first and foremost in the concept of the mastermind, which is who it is that's in your circle of influence, who it is that's in your inner circle that is cooperating with you to help you to get things done, whether they're bringing their energy, their money, their talent, or all of those things, their insight and input, all of those things to the table to help you to accomplish whatever it is you've set as your definite chief aim. So let's talk first about the cooperation between your conscious and subconscious mind. Now, for most of us, we've been in an environment where we have been addressing a challenge or trying to use our mind for something, as it were. And we've hit a roadblock. And I can tell you, I remember distinctly numbers of occasions where a school teacher, for example, would tell you when you were reaching a mental block, why don't you just use your imagination? And the one thing that they didn't do was to teach you any methodology for how to use your imagination. I mean, what does it really mean to use your imagination? Well, I'm going to give you some thoughts tonight on how I have learned to use my imagination and how it has paid dividends in terms of going through a process with this. So let me give you an example. We all have the opportunity and the ability and the power to focus our attention through conscious thought on an idea or a concept or a process or whatever it is we choose to give our thought to. We also have some tools that are available to us that are designed to help us to influence our subconscious mind. And what I mean by that is that there are things that kind of float around in our heads in the ether, so to speak, but there are ways that we can impress upon them images and thoughts that allow us to explore and to basically convince the subconscious mind, as Dr. Hill described, to cooperate with the conscious mind, which is where you're really thinking about what it is you want to accomplish. So let me give you an example of where that happens. Most of us are familiar with the concept of visualization. And by visualization, I mean that we are actually consciously seeing ourselves in certain circumstances in our mind. We've all done this before if we were, for example, young, or even now for that matter, for me. But when I was a kid, we didn't have any restrictions on our ability to think and visualize. So when I was a kid, and I think I used this story before, I always visualized myself being a professional baseball player. And I would see myself in circumstances where I would be coming to the plate in the bottom of the ninth inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs and a 2-2 count or whatever, and hitting a grand slam and visualizing what that would be like, the people in the stadium yelling and screaming and cheering for me and everything, and cheering for the team. And we have the ability, that's just one visualization, but we have the ability to visualize all of those things. When I was going to law school, I could visualize myself being in front of a jury in a courtroom and dealing with objections and dealing with, presenting the case and things. I could visualize myself doing that. And that visualization came to reality because of the fact that I impressed upon my subconscious so effectively what it would be like to be in that environment that it manifested. Now, I can tell you that it wasn't just when I got in law school that I saw myself doing that. I saw that when I was in high school, college and high school. I saw that when I was in 8th grade, when I first started entertaining the concept that I would go to law school. I started seeing myself being what it would mean to be a lawyer. And that's what we're talking about. We talk about our conscious affecting our subconscious mind. And it's an important concept to understand because it's overlooked so frequently. We call it daydreaming. But the truth is that when you do it effectively and you're doing it consciously, it becomes a way for you to paint the pictures that you want to see manifest in your life. And a lot of times people think that that's, hocus pocus. But the truth is that before you create anything, you create it in your mind first. And then it's just a matter of creating it in a way that it becomes so much of an impression for you that you believe it's possible to do it. And so what Dr. Hill refers to as autosuggestion, and what he refers to as the subconscious mind, you're simply using conscious effort on your part to impress upon the subconscious mind. That's where autosuggestion takes place. To impress upon the subconscious mind the images of what you'd like to see in your life. And I can tell you with certainty that that works. So let me give you an example more recently of where that showed up for me. So a lot of times, and when I think back about all the different people that believe this principle, we're talking about Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison, W. Clement Stone, who was a big personal development person in his day. He founded and was part of one of the largest insurance companies, most successful insurance companies of all time, Combined Insurance back in the day. But the point is that all of the people, Norman Vincent Peale, all of the people who have been truly successful in life understood the concept of visualization, the concept of autosuggestion, as Dr. Hill described it, or the concept of, as I said, visualizing that which you want in a way that makes it happen. A lot of times it's just a matter of believing that you can do something and seeing yourself doing it, seeing the steps it would take to do it. And that's where I'm going to tell my story tonight about a more recent example of that. Village Connector Media is very much a function of what I visualized in my mind that I wanted to see myself doing in cooperation with others. And so visualize this for yourself, and just humor me for a minute on this. Village Connector Media started out as my desire to help get people distracted from mainstream media and from all of the divisiveness that goes on in our society, and to put us back in a position where we could work together. I remember growing up in the YMCA that I was a member of a youth group called the Leaders Club. And in that Leaders Club, we worked together to do things. We organized bake sales and fundraising events and leaders rallies and all kinds of things, activities that we did together. But the thing that was striking to me was that we didn't allow ourselves to be divided. We were multiracial, multi-gender. I mean, everyone was welcome in that place. And we all worked together. It was very, very atypical of what you see in society today. Even back then, around us, the real world, so to speak, was operating pretty much the way the world does today. But in that Leaders Club, we didn't care about all those outside distractions. But here's my point. I've always wanted to get something in place that renewed or replaced or brought back that environment that I had created for myself when I chose to join the Leaders Club at the YMCA. And even though that's not what I went to college for, it wasn't what I went to law school for, certainly, it was something that was always in the back of my mind. And as I watched some of the tools around me coming into play, the internet, which meant communications for me, and some of the other things, especially TV, radio, and now online newspaper, I started to see that it was possible to use those tools to create that environment on a much grander scale than I had grown up with. And that's why what we do here at Village Connector and Abundant Society is focusing on personal development. That's what the Leaders Club was about. That's what Leaders Club was about in the YMCA. We were learning the YMCA philosophies and values, and now we're learning, through Abundant Society, some things that are congruent and parallel to those, but that are more universally available to people because you don't have to be Christian or any particular religious persuasion or spirituality pursuit to be able to understand some of the things that we're sharing here. So, that for most of you that we have the newspaper, the online television, online radio, the Abundant Society program, which is our social network, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. By the way, we're going to go a little later tonight than we normally do because we were running a little late to begin with, but not by much. But the point is that when I first thought about the concept for this organization and our brick and mortar facility, Small Business CEO Collabs here in Laurel, Maryland, when I first came up with the concept for that, I first saw it in my mind. I saw having a school for children, a wellness center, a co-working facility, a facility from which we would be training people on public assistance to become self-sufficient and to be able to understand their talents and their genius and their self-worth and helping them to lift themselves up out of poverty and into prosperity. I saw having a Leaders Club, a youth group here, where we'd be teaching kids earlier in time what it is that they need to do to be successful in life. So I saw and visualized that and used to see what it was. Used to visualize myself sitting here and sharing in this way through personal development lectures and things with people and trying to help them to achieve more in their lives. And then I started drawing it on whiteboards. That's why if you come to Small Business CEO Collabs, we're very big on these whiteboards that we've painted on the walls and everything. It's a big part of visualization. But I started drawing up on the wall what the building would look like and where the rooms were, literally. The only thing that's missing today from the facility that we have here is a cafeteria where I visualize people coming in, the parents and the kids from the private school and everyone coming together into the same cafeteria to break bread with each other and being able to spend time together regardless of what their backgrounds were, regardless of what parts of the country they came from, regardless of all the things that we normally allow to divide us. With that in mind, all of that exists today largely because I did two things. I drew it on the board enough that it became so ingrained in my subconscious that it just started to bring to me the attention of people and things that could make it happen. You see, about a year and a half ago, or actually it was a year ago, when I first started looking at this, it was actually back in January or February of 2013, when I started thinking about doing this. I had no idea as to what the time frame might be to do it. I just knew I wanted to do it. In fact, I convinced myself it would probably take a few years to do it. And what I found out is that the more I thought about it, the more people started showing up that I would share the idea with, and they would want to know, well, when are we going to do that? When is that going to be available? What are your plans for that? And I started to see it as being real. I started to believe that it could happen sooner than I had put it on the radar. And so I found the more I drew it on the board and the more I shared it with other people, the more the energy around it got to be to the point where it was time to do it immediately. And so less than a year after I first began visualizing that, we were actually making plans to do it. By making plans, I mean, we were looking, this was February of 2013. By July of 2013, we were actually looking for office space to put a facility together. And we were in that facility by October of 2013. Now, we haven't even been around a year yet, but just something that I had the idea for has come to fruition and is paying big dividends for everyone that has chosen to become part of it. If you're a business owner, business owners are finding they're collaborating and working together with each other, creating greater opportunities together. We just had a mastermind group meeting in here today of people who work with families and kids and parents. And now they're creating their future by pooling their resources and coming together. But all of that started with the idea that I first had in my head that we would have a community center that we operated for profit without support from the government and without having to deal with some of the distractions that exist in our traditional environments. So I know that a big part of that effort came from my being able to write it down on a visual cue for me, putting it up on the whiteboard, literally labeling the rooms and where things would go. And today, like I said, 99% of that is something we're doing. We don't have a cafeteria in here, but they deliver food, so it's not as critical. We do eat in the CoLabs facility quite a bit with each other. So I hope that you understand the importance that visualization plays in your ability to accomplish anything. I can tell you that Dennis Waitley, who was head of the Olympic team in the early 80s, when we were actually doing very well as an Olympic team, he implemented a program called motor visualization, where they actually hooked people up to these little biofeedback machines, where they actually had them close their eyes and visualize themselves going through their workout routine or going through their event, as it were, actually. And what they said was, what they were able to do is they were to collect data that showed that the same muscles that they needed to perform the physical activity fired in their heads, and they were able to capture the electrical impulses and monitor them. The same things happen in their minds that happened when they were actually doing their event. And so visualization of someone going through their event in their heads and seeing themselves hit the home run, seeing themselves go over the high bar, seeing themselves cross the finish line first, did make a difference in terms of their ability to see themselves do it, made it real for them, and that made them more driven to make it happen. That's why belief is such a big part of what we do. You know in your heart when something comes into your head, you've already told yourself, oh, I probably can't do that. I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm not in shape enough. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not. When you create those I'm nots, you're basically reversing the process. But when you truly believe, when you truly visualize yourself being able to do it and believe it, you're creating the circumstances that will bring it to you. And so that, I believe, is what Dr. Hill was referring to when he talks about cooperation, and he talks about cooperation between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. I think it's more coordination. But the bottom line is that either way it works for me, because I know that it was a big part of many things that I've done to be able to create the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. Now, of course, creating the lifestyle that I want to live also involves people. And I've had a lot of people associated with Small Business CEO CoLabs and Village Connector Media and everything else that we're doing that are as responsible for making it happen as I am. I came up with an idea, and I invited other people to become part of making that idea reality. And that's not anything special. It's just that that's the way it works. It works for me that way. It works for you that way. Now, see, most of us don't understand that that's an actual action item and step in the process to success, so we don't give it the level of attention that it should have. But I'm telling you right now that when I was drawing those things on the board, I was drawing them for the right people, because most of the people who saw what I put on the board made the decision to become part of what we were doing. I started CoLabs and small business, or the program that we have here currently, with 11 people, and all 11 of them had to suffer through my little stupid stick drawings on the board, but they were all inspired by that to become part of what we're doing. Every one of them saw the vision before they were extended an invitation to cooperate with me to make it happen. So, definite chief aim, a plan for attainment, and identifying who you're going to invite to cooperate with you to make it happen. Those 3 steps are critical to anyone's success. And I can tell you right now that if you get them out of order, or if you leave one out, or if you give one less significance than the other, you're setting yourself up to at least delay your success, if not reject it. So I want to make sure that we emphasize the important role that cooperation plays. It's not enough for you to have an idea. It's not enough for you to see the plan for how you'll implement the idea. You have to have the right people around you to implement and make it happen. Usually the right people will identify themselves as you start sharing your idea, declaring your intentions. That's how it happened for me. I just started declaring what it was I wanted to do and talking with the people I cared about most and that we worked well together. And that's when people started raising their hand and said, I'd like to be part of that. And it becomes magic. It really does. But it all starts with an understanding of how important those 3 steps are. Number 1, having a definite chief aim. You have to be crystal clear. Now, crystal clear doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers or that you have to see every step along the way. The other side of this is that all the lights don't have to be green before you make the decision to move forward. One of my favorite quotes comes from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, which is, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. But you have to see the staircase where it's leading you without necessarily knowing every step along the way that it takes to get there. You can figure out those steps along the way once you know where you want to go, and that it's a process. The cooperation is the inspiration in a lot of ways, because one of the things I found was that the more I got people on board with me, the more enthusiastic I became. I almost didn't want to let them down, so I was inspired to make sure it happened because I saw how excited everybody else got. So it brings you energy, it brings you other ideas, it brings you resources, it brings you other people's insights. That's all what awaits you if you can learn how to cooperate with others. And also, how to remove yourself from the competitive plane. That's the other thing. A lot of times we keep our ideas to ourselves because we're afraid someone's going to steal them. And I can tell you right now, that is a mistake. Most people, if you have an original idea, you'll have to force it down their throats anyway, so no one's going to steal it from you. But seriously, most of us stifle our ability to grow because of fear. And remember, fear simply means that it's time to learn. And what it's time to learn right now is that if you're associating with the right people, they're going to want to see you be successful with your ideas. And they're going to want you to play that role for them as well. That's why when we get towards the end of the lessons, one of the rules is the golden rule. And if you're around the right people, they won't steal from you because they won't want you to steal from them. And that's a subject for another day. But ultimately, you've got to get over your fear of sharing ideas with others and start embracing the concept of working together in cooperation rather than in competition. So that's what I wanted you to know about this lesson. And as you know, every one of these lessons is simply my own insight, my own evidence of where it's showing up in my life. It doesn't mean that that's all there was to get in this particular lesson. You should read the whole lesson. Don't leave it up to me to decide what's important to you. You might read the whole lesson and get a completely different message. But this is what I've gotten from the message from the lesson on cooperation. Now, we're done with tonight's lesson, but I did tell you that we had a little announcement that I wanted to make. I know that most of you have taken the time to set up a profile for yourself over at Abundant Society. And I also want you to know that this is probably one of the most important times for us in the growth of this program, because we are about to launch all of our TV shows. We're about to launch the Leaders Club for the middle and high school students to learn about entrepreneurship and personal development and health and wellness. We've got a lot of things that are about to jump off here in a very big way. And having our community in which we can congregate is going to be very important. Now, if you've set up a profile already at Abundant Society, I want to thank you for joining us. But if you haven't taken the time to do that, remember, this is free. This is a free service for the community. Your profile and all the other resources that we make available for free to the community are made possible by the businesses that join this program in some fashion or other. Some of them join CoLabs directly and become members of our facility. Some of them join the Consumers Win Savings Club to market their businesses to people that are part of our community. But in some way or another, it's businesses that are contributing to the pot of resources that we have available that allows you to have programs like this and programs like Abundant Society and the Leaders Club and the other things that we do available to you for free. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. Don't squander those resources. If you haven't set up a profile over at Abundant Society, take the time to do that today. All you've got to do is go to abundantsociety.net, click on the link to create your account, and set up your profile. If you've been following these lessons along the whole time, you will be able to fill in your profile with your definite chief aim, your plan for how you're going to attain it, and who you're looking to connect with to help you to make it happen. We actually have the profile set up specifically to emulate the teachings of this course. So please take the time to do that tonight if you haven't done so already. Now, there's one other thing I'd like to invite you to do. I'd like to invite you to become part of the team of people who are looking to grow that community. So if you've got friends or family members that are interested in personal development or health and wellness or professional development, or who think they might want to do something to improve their lot, so to speak, invite them to join us at Abundant Society. As I said, it'd be a favor to them, and it'll definitely be good for you as well. If we can create a community of people that are all working together in harmony for the betterment of humanity, just think how quickly we could make things change in our mainstream communities. Just think about how much more resource we could bring to the table where everyone's working together instead of competing with each other. Just think about how much better life would be if everyone was working together and rowing in the same direction. You see, that's my vision for humanity. That's my vision for the world. And we have to get started somewhere. I know it's a big vision, but it doesn't take much for us to invite other people to join us. And so I remind you of my favorite saying, many hands make light work. If everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot. Inviting other people to join this mission, share the message, become part of it, invest in themselves, making themselves better, but also inviting others to do the same and then working together. All of that makes a difference. By yourself, it might not make a ripple, but as we all do it together, it creates a wave that becomes insurmountable. And when that wave is for the betterment of humanity, it's a wave that we all can ride together. So I want to thank you for joining us on the Think and Grow Society webinar for tonight. And I apologize for the technical glitches. I'm going to do a little research and see what Google has figured out to fix the audio on that other situation. But I can promise you that we are not going to let anything stop us. It may take a little extra effort, but we're going to continue to get the job done. So I want to thank you once again for joining us on the Hangout tonight. Next week's lesson is on failure. And we're going to talk about how you can have a different attitude towards failure that will make you a lot more inclined to get out and try new things, even though there may be a fear of failure. So again, thank you for joining us tonight. One thing I forgot to do, I promised everyone I would check the I would check the chat room to make sure there were no questions, and it doesn't look like it. Laura K's got some good comments. Takeaway: envision, 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 and share, share, share. Yeah, exactly. You got it. That's the whole point. That's what cooperation is all about. That's what visualization is all about. Mark, thank you for your comment about knowing about the history of collabs. Mark is a member of collabs, so very inspiring to see him be impressed with the full story. Now you've got the whole story, Mark, and good for you for being part of what we're doing here. So again, you all have a fabulous weekend. I can promise you that I'm going to make that my mission, and I've already set up the circumstances for that to materialize. I hope you'll do the same for yourself, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Friday night, invite somebody else to join you next week. Let's see if we can grow this family a little bit more. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks again.